are some certain issues, there are some certain questions of why this day is important for us, what are the results of the investigation of the events of the 26th of February, because for the participations in the meeting, the first prosecution in Crimea has started, whether the international and national investigation will help us to know the truth about this day, why this day is important for us, why it is important for us to commemorate the resistance of the occupation. And we know that the 2 people have been killed because of the prosecution that has happened there. So the prosecution from the side of the Russian Federation has started to the participants of the pro-Ukrainian meetings and the Crimean Tatars. But let us start with the first question to Rifat Chubarov. So you have signed an application for these meetings. Can you remind us, please, why? What was happening there? We know how many manipulation there was around this event and in the courts when the prosecution has been held, how the meeting has been later on presented in the media. Before the 26th of February, on 25th of February, we have already knew that there's going to be an extraordinary assembly of the Parliament of Crimea, Autonomous Republic of Crimea, and the members of parliament, well, at least the members of parliament of Crimea, are going to be approving the address to the President of Russia, Mr. Putin. And we know that there was actually the invitation for the representatives of Russian Federation to mitigate with Ukrainian internal affairs. And we have met Mr. Konstantinov and his deputies. I have been with my deputies as a head of the Majlis of Crimean Tatar people. We've tried to persuade Mr. Konstantinov that we should postpone this session in a couple of days, that we have to go with this members of parliament group headed by him to Kiev. We have to meet the temporarily acting president, Mr. Turchinov, by that time, and we have to find the common grounds for the issues about the government, so on and so forth. So all of the process has to be done in the constitutional fields of Ukraine. But Mr. Konstantinov, he was not answering for his own action by that time in Crimea. By that time, we already had the agents of the intelligence of Russian Federation. That's why in the evening, and I would like to draw your attention to that, we shouldn't be ashamed of that. In the evening of the 25th of February and on the 26th of February straight away, there was no movement of any kind of political parties. Ukrainian political parties have not been noticed. It seems like everyone has kind of dissolved there, except for these activists, Ukrainians, activists of Ukrainian movement. So that is why for us, for the Majlis of Crimean Tatar people, we had to have this decision in place to combine, unite all of the people in Crimea against those plans that have been planned for the 26th of February. And on 26th of February, around 15,000 people, mostly Crimean Tatar, but also Ukrainians, the people of other ethnicities. The civil society, on this day, they have completed their task. The civil society of Crimea on this day have stated the importance of the territorial integrity of Ukraine. It didn't give the opportunity for this extraordinary assembly to happen, and so this address will be sent to Moscow. And the civil society was sure that in the evening of the 26th February, that Ukrainian state affairs and Ukrainian state institutions are going to participate in the further on development of the events. But it happened quite differently in reality. And the civil society was the only force to be stating the territorial integrity of Ukraine on that day. But those people who had to protect the integrity of Ukraine and their mandate, they didn't manage to comply with their task. If we will ask today who is to blame of that, then I believe that this question is a very important one. But I do not see that as the main question as that. Because answering the question who's to blame should not be answered but only in the January or February 2014. We have to recollect everything what has been happening in Crimea since the moment that Ukrainian independence had been proclaimed in 1991, on whether the political Kiev has not been fulfilling their tasks in that part of Ukrainian state than Crimea, how disbalanced was the protection of interests for the Ukrainian community has been there. 500,000 ethnic Ukrainians in Crimea, that we violated the interests and the rights of the Crimean Tatar people that have returned to Crimea, and whether we have provided the opportunity opportunity for the monopoly of the ethnical Russian majority. So why do I say that right now? This issue is very important for us to learn. And Crimea, and we know that the sovereignty of Ukraine will be restored upon Crimea. But in order for us to develop Crimea concerning these mistakes, we have to speak about it. But the main task for us is how can we restore the sovereignty of Crimea? How we can restore Ukrainians, Crimean Tatars, the people of other nationalities in Crimea. They're waiting to become the part of Ukrainian family once again. And I do believe that this is the most important thing that we should